The idea of today is basically to walk you through the Daktela system, to give you some of the highlights, to just point out various bits and bobs on there that may be of interest to yourself. The first things first, it's browser agnostic, so we don't care, what browser it's on. It's equally at home in an Apple situation, a Windows situation using Edge, which I think this one is, Chrome. It could be on your phone, it could be on a tablet. It literally can be opened up anywhere you wish. We can personalize it to a certain extent. As you can see, we've got your logo in the middle there, and also there's an icon at the top there. Also, the Windows background here, we put on a different photograph, similar to the way Microsoft do on a daily basis. Some of them are reasonably okay, like this one. Some of them, I have to say, I'm not too keen on. But the good news is you can actually change the background as well. So you can put your own pictures on there, and obviously you can logo them up, etc., etc. So that's pretty good. In the interest of time, I'll put that one down. And I've already signed on to a Chrome screen, which is this one here. Now, what this is a base agent. So this particular person, Peter at the top here, Peter Bluebird, and I should point out, obviously, everything you're going to see on the screen is made up. There's no confidential information on here. None of the people are real, so we're okay from a GDPR point of view. Peter has very limited access to the system. In fact, as you can see on the left-hand side here from this blue icon, all he's able to do is make and take calls. He can't do anything else. There are three main areas to the screen. The top part here where Peter's picture is shown also shows things like pause codes. You can have as many different pause codes as you wish. You can basically put as many different ones in there. You don't have any limit. You can call them what you want, etc., etc. It's currently on an email break. If I was to come out of email break, you can see that's counting up at the moment, 12 seconds, and go on to a break AM. That instantly changes, and as you can see, this one counts down because there's a limit. He can only have 10 minutes on there. If he wants to go back onto calls, then obviously he'll end those pauses. The reason I point that out is in the main screen here, you'll see there's this area, My Activity Today, and if I hover over the pause box, it tells you I've spent 13 seconds in email and 10 seconds on my break AM. And obviously, if I went back into email, it's going to start counting again. And if I let that count up to 5 or 10, and then I'm going to basically come out of there, it adds it obviously to the overall part there. So, you could get a snapshot of what's happening right at this moment, but also an overview that I've used 21 seconds in a particular break. Again, you don't have to do that, and I'll probably say that quite a few times during this period of time. But, it's a case of a lot of the system is customizable. You can choose what to use and when to use it and how you use it. The next one over is connectivity. In this particular case, my extension for this particular person is 3002. I could connect a secondary or third or fourth or fifth device on there as well. I could forward calls on there. This particular one is using WebRTC, but it could equally use a SIP device, a soft phone, a hard phone. It could be anything. You could also, if you wanted to, link up to a mobile phone, home phone, an office phone, or whatever. So you can link the system and have that voice path from just about anywhere. Next one over is the queues that this particular person is able to take calls from. You can, if you want to, have a number of different outbound calls here. So if I make a call from this one, it's going to be HubSpot, Pop-in, Screen Pop, MSD, Screen Pop, just our internal CRM solution, which a lot of our clients use instead of. So there's a number of different ways of making calls. And in this particular case, we're giving Peter the opportunity to pick and choose which one he wants. You don't have to do that. You can lock the agent down to use a particular outbound queue. Same goes for the inbound queues. In this particular case, we actually trust Peter quite a lot. But for argument's sake, if I go down to here where we're doing inbound with a Zoho Screen Pop, he's able to not take that type of call. Now, where we've got Zoho and Act and whatever, this could be inbound sales, support, finance, the normal sort of department type stuff, or direct calls. And again, I can pick and choose which ones I'm allowed to take. Once again, you don't have to do that. You can lock the agent down to taking specific types of call. So if I'm in sales, I will only take sales calls. But we trust Peter, so we give him the ability to move it around. We can also see various notifications in there. That could be a reminder that I've put in there myself into this calendar at the bottom. This is not an Outlook or a Google replacement. We can actually pop Outlook and Google in an iframe, but this is just a reminder for this particular agent. And then basically you can search the system as well. This middle section here, the dashboard, can be changed. You can have all sorts of different things on. You can hide items if you don't want to see them. You can actually have them taken away completely. You could put an iframe in there with a third-party product such as MSD, HubSpot, Zoho, Act. We have no affiliation to any of these guys, so whenever I say anything like that, also read Salesforce and Goldmine. So as long as they allow us to pop an iframe from their end, we can pop an iframe. Then the left-hand side here, you'll find various things happen. You can see grayed out at the moment, call waiting, missed and postponed. They'll obviously become active when I put a call in a second, or if I make a call. The dashboard, obviously, I'm on at the moment. There's a built-in CRM solution. You don't have to use it. We can use a third party. But if you do decide to use this, it's completely customizable. If I basically bring up the record of myself, at the bottom here, and I click on there, you'll find that there are all sorts of different fields that can be shown. All of these are customizable. You can decide which fields they are. A number of our clients, if they're using HubSpot or MSD, for instance, will duplicate in here what they've got on, for argument's sake, MSD, and then download all of their contacts from MSD into our system. That way, if they can't get onto MSD for some reason, they've still got various customer information in here that can be shown. Also, you can see here that we've got a routing, as we called it, and we've got this little box underneath to do with travel. That can be taken away. You can have as many different drop-down boxes as you want, so maybe council services I'll pop on there, and it brings up the appropriate piece of information here. Again, all fully customizable by yourself with drop-down boxes and little radio buttons and tick boxes, etc., etc. You can have more than one up there, so if I decided to put up travel at the same time, you can see that information is still there. And again, all of these are drop-down boxes that have been made. So all of this information is basically there to help via a CRM point of view. At the bottom here, we've got activities. These are activities potentially that this person, as in Peter Bluebird, has done. You'll find my name is in there an awful lot, because I do obviously a number of things. In this particular case, because we're looking at the customer, Roy Holmes, it'll bring up things not only that Peter has done, but also that his boss, Jerry, has done, and other people. And there's no limit, again, to how many records we've got on here. This particular system goes back, by the looks of it, to February, since we clear out. And again, there'll be different people answering the call, as well as, obviously, Peter's stuff there. Each contact can be linked to an account. And again, you can have a layered account there, so that I'll leave that, not save information there. These are all different, basically, companies that have accounts on the system. These top 3 or 4 were automatically created and downloaded from HubSpot. See quite a few. Also, we've got one downloaded from Act, and we've got other ones which are our default databases. So basically, the built-in CRM, again, fully customizable. Sorry, I didn't show you, but if I picked that particular company there, you'll find that the input here is completely different to what you saw just now. And again, all of this can be changed, customized. You can have line by line address, postcodes, or you can have a block. Choice again is yours. Next stage there is the knowledge base. There's a built-in knowledge base. You can load up as a customer anything you want into there. So you can see I could go down to transport, and it will show me some transport information. And if I click on there, it will say whatever information that we want to put in there. Again, it's all made up. General information, knowledge base, general how-to tips. We could, if we wanted to, do a search, and if I put in there dial, for argument's sake, it'll bring anything up. Dial. We do preview dialing, automated agentless robo dialing, progressive, predictive preview, etc., etc. Just haven't got those articles in there. And again, these can be changed and added to if you're given the right permission. So if I'm looking at something to do with preview dialing, for argument's sake, this might be something to do with the finance department. if I'm allowed to, I can actually enter information to add to that so that we're always trying to update that database. Any newcomers can use it. So that's the main part of that system. We've also included on here resources, which is quite interesting. Within the resources type, there's full e-learning. So basically, if I click on the e-learning there, there's a number of different videos that are included within the system, so you can learn how to use the system. It goes right through to advanced admin skills on there, and that might be, as it says there, the settings, any integrations, setting up the CRM, global settings, etc., etc., etc. So all of that is included within the system. If I go back one, we've also got full documentation in the system. Again, we can click on any of these down the bottom here, or we could just go in there and type ACD and see what we've got on ACD, what's happening, whether it's and act, Azure, automatic. That, yeah, all of this is linked into the ACD type of thing, or maybe dialer, and it will come up and tell us all about dialers. But if we click on them, it will take you into what you can do, how you can do it, related items on the left-hand side. So it's a complete documentation on the system, which is regularly updated. Change log speaks for itself. We also put in their roadmaps, so we give an idea of what's going on the system. In this particular case, adding Whisper and Barge to call monitoring. We've got that. Obviously, again, this is a test system. But what this enables you to do as a user is click on there and say, is this important to me as a business? And you can kind of vote and put a comment in there, which would come over to ourselves into our product department. And it might actually mean that, basically we'll move this up the list and put it into under construction. Facebook and Instagram, we've already got, obviously, various wallboard widgets. And also then it will move into what's been launched on the system, so you can find out what's new. Our current version, I think, is 6.24, I think it is now. I was going to say 23. 6.24 point whatever. We let out probably 2 to 3 major releases, so 6.22, 23, 24 for the year. We also have a number of point releases on that. We use like a Scrum approach. So if we think there's something that either A, needs fixing, or B, is an addition to the system, then we'll let out a point release. So 6.22.11, for argument's sake. Now, you don't have to load that up. We load everything up for the customers. We actually upgrade the system. But you might find that 6.22.11 is particularly referencing Hungarian customers or Polish customers. And maybe it's something in there where we've spelt something wrong, or maybe done something for the Polish marketplace that doesn't happen anywhere else. So again, it's not always a case of, oh my God, we've got to upgrade because we're 4 releases out. It's probably more a case of, I want to move to there because, hey, Instagram's included or something like that. So all of that information is built into the system as well. Also, there's API help in there for the more technical people. This will actually give you all of the various information that you'd need to set up your API, including fields. And if I take activities call, the field name, what it means, where it is, all custom fields that you create in the CRM are also accessible via the API. So you can actually create your own fields and then link those into a third-party system or just download information into them. Again, all of that information is available. We don't expect our clients just to, dive in at the deep end, so to speak, although some of them do. We have support 24/7. In the UK, our support phones are manned from 8 till 7, I believe, 8 a.m. till 7 p.m. But we've got 24-hour support from our HQ over in Prague, in the Czech Republic, all fluent English speakers and writers. And basically, they have a dotted line into myself, so I can basically contact those guys anytime I wish. They will obviously escalate if a call comes in at 2 or 3 in the morning to the UK management team, Steve and myself in particular. We don't like calls at 2 in the morning because that normally means there's a problem. And I'm happy to say we haven't had any 2 o'clock calls for, my God, probably about 4 years now. So we're fairly well on top of that. If I then just show you very quickly a few of the things that this particular person can do, and then I'll upgrade, I'll go to the completely opposite end of the spectrum where somebody else has got access to absolutely everything. So if this person wants to make a call, number of different ways of making a call, I can type in a name and I'll get all of the information for Roy. The reason that this person's coming up is they actually live in Royal Ascot, so it's found Roy. And if I actually type in Royal, you can see that it's actually brought up those people, just those people in the same area. You can also type in there a telephone number if you wish, 075, and it will bring up all of the 075s. And as you saw, if I put a 0 on the end of that, there's only one 07500. Again, all these people have telephone numbers, etc., etc. And you've probably got a sneak preview of the last way, which is presence. If I want to call somebody else on the system and they're signed on, whether they're available or not available. And also I can test it, transfer a call into a queue or call a queue. So it may well be that I want to call anybody in finance. I can just enter the queue just like anybody else. Or you could start up an internal queue just for internal people to do. If I have a call coming in, which I will quickly instigate an incoming call, just so you can see what that looks like. Oops, start my phone off. I'm just making a call now. We do have a built-in IVR, which I'm using on this particular system. You probably couldn't hear that well, but basically it was asking me to press 1, 2, 3. I'm just going to press one of the buttons on there now. And what you'll see is there is a call waiting on the left-hand side. And it's also come up and selected this particular person. I'm going to select that call. Also going to mute myself on my phone. What it's done is it's looked up into the internal CRM solution, the telephone number that's dialed, which happens to be here on the right-hand side. And basically it's brought up the record. I can click on this record and go back to that CRM that you saw before. It still leaves the call open. So if I click on there now, you'll find it brings up my record and I've got full access to absolutely everything there. If I want to, I can also edit it and add information if I so desire. We also have a full ticketing solution, which this person doesn't have access to, even though it says the box down here. That's just to remind me, because again, all of this is customizable dependent on the call that's coming in. The top right-hand side here, we can put this down as mark it as an important call for whatever reason. Maybe I need to go back to it later. This particular one is being recorded. You don't have to record calls, but we can. And we've given this person the ability to pause recording just by clicking on there. And basically at the moment, my voice is not being recorded in the system. It's not muted. It is actually stopped. And if I turn that on again, obviously it's starting to record again. Again, you don't have to allow people the ability to pause and resume. You can do it via person. You can do it via queue. You can decide when and where that's done. The next two buttons are very similar. We've got transfer and we've got conference. If we look at the transfer button, it looks very similar to making a call, and again works exactly the same way. So if I type in there, I'll get all the ROIs up, etc. As you can see, two different types of transfer: a blind transfer or a cold transfer. I'm just going to transfer this call like it or not, no introduction. That might mean that a desk phone rings and then it may go off to voicemail if somebody doesn't answer it. An ordinary transfer or warm transfer is where the customer is put on hold, they hear music on hold, etc. And obviously, whoever I'm transferring to, if it's Steve, for instance, I'll be able to introduce the call, tell them what's happening, and then transfer the call across. Same goes for conference, except as per the name, you can actually conference somebody in. I could invite Steve into a conference, I can introduce him, and then once he knows what it is, we can bring the customer onto the call. Or we might say, no, Steve, you don't need to come on there. You've given me the information. I can just close it down. The last bit on the right-hand side there is where we can actually bring in information. This is Google Translate, again, just to bring something up there. But basically, you can have as many boxes down here as you wish, so to speak, little tabs where you can bring up regularly used pages if you so desire. So all of that is within the system. I'm going to hang up the call now, and it is going to produce an error message because when I hang up the call, the customer is gone, and I'm going to save it. No, I can't. I've got to put in there a status or a wrap-up code, a disposition, some people call it. So I'll call this a lead, and then basically I'll save that. It takes me back to the main screen, which in this particular case was a contact that I looked into. If I was been on dashboard, it would take me back to the dashboard. And again, it'll give me the history over here that I've taken basically a call, how many I've closed off, how long I've been on calls today, etc., etc. And once again, you don't have to show this to an agent unless you want to. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little switch I've built into the system here. And basically, I'm going to go to the other end of the spectrum now and become David. As you'll see, David has access to a bit more than what Peter had access to. Again, we're going to make sure that he's basically signed on via a WebRTC, can't say it, WebRTC device rather than a SIP device. But again, that could be a SIP device if we wanted. The screen looks very similar in the middle here. I've got last activities that David has had anything to do with, and you'll see, again, quite a lot of them to a customer called Roy Holmes over a period of time. At the top here, you can see that he's got a lot more things going on. He's been logged on for a couple of hours because I had him logged on this morning. He's been in pauses for a while. Basically, it was an admin pause for 9 minutes. You can see he's taken 5 calls or made 5 calls earlier on. He's been doing things. And basically, this information, again, can be customized. On the left-hand side, you can see that he's got a few more items there, apart from telephone calls, emails, SMSs, Facebook Messenger, Instagram isn't on there, but WhatsApp is. Sorry, mixed the two up. Instagram should be on there as well. Probably haven't loaded it onto this system yet. But all of these different items are available to take customer contact with. On the left-hand side, you'll see there's a few more things as we go down, including listings. Listings is a way of finding out what's gone on today. I could find out all activities just by clicking on activities, and it'll basically bring up whatever activities have happened today. I could say, let's do that for this month and search on there, and you'll find a lot more different things coming up, such as SMS messages and emails, etc. And if I go to the far right-hand side here, and I apologize in advance, I don't know what I'm going to find on here, but I've got the all CNI, the detail. And if I click on there, it'll actually give me the detail of what that activity was. So this was obviously an email. The email was sent off to a person at our work address. And all of this information, and I can show you this in a second, has all been picked up automatically. I haven't had to type anything here at all. I could if I wanted to, but obviously that's a template that picks all of the information up and basically tells you how long it was done for. Literally, it took 30 seconds or 20 seconds, and it was done by Jerry, etc. So all of that information is in there. Same goes for a telephone call. I think this was the telephone call probably that we did just a little bit earlier on. So I can go look at that telephone call. You can see that the recording is shown at the top here, and I could listen to the call. Again, if you've got permissions and security access to do that, not everybody will have the ability to listen to calls. I can download that call. I could delete it. Again, stress the fact not everyone gets that. There's a built-in Q&A system in there, so it may well be that I have someone go in there and listen to and then mark this particular call. Again, all of these questions are made up by yourselves. The help part in there is made up by yourselves as well. So as we said there, how nice was the agent? Were they sympathetic? Did we grill the customer? I love that question. And again, they've all got drop-down boxes. Yes, he did grill the customer. Maybe he was somewhat sympathetic. Maybe he introduced the company okay. And as you can see at the top here, that score is going up. And obviously there's a relative score as well. So it may well be that, I want everyone to score at least 80 on here. And if not, I'm going to make a comment that maybe this call wasn't done as good as it could have been. So I'll just put in some scores in there just so that something. We've made 77. I'm going to save that. Oops, didn't put in there. They made 84 in the end. And again, that may not be good enough, so somebody else could come in and listen to the same call, and you'd get a build-up of basically the responses or the information that we've got there. Again, all of that information is there. Equally so, what happened to that call. So here is the number that was dialed. Here is the customer's number. They pressed 3 on the IVR. It rang for X amount of time. It was spoken, and. So all of that information is built there. We can do a search. So we could say we want everything answered by, let's say, Jerry, and it was in a particular queue maybe, or it was a particular contact type. We could, if we want to, make this specific to telephone calls. So I could do a search in here for a specific telephone number. That in there. And where we've got at the bottom here, 50 items, probably all coming from me anyway, we could do a search and it will break it down to 42 items. So it was 2 from another number. We can see who answered it. And again, everything that goes on there. We can also see Basically, if there was a customer journey attached to this, how many times this person's called, have they been SMS'd, have they been emailed, etc., etc., etc. So it gives you a complete history of what's going on there, and that's through the interaction side. We can also within there look at how many people and when they logged in, for argument's sake. We can see how many times people went ready. We can do user tracing within the system, so we can see when a particular person maybe was signed on. So if I take Peter, who we were looking at earlier on, we can see that he's been signed on today. If I go back a day, maybe there's a little bit more information there. He was idle for a big chunk of the day yesterday afternoon, and so on and so forth. And again, all of that information is available. We could do it for a week and we could see what he's been up to, whether he's been taking calls, if he did take calls, what the telephone number was that he was talking to. And if we want, we can click on it and it'll bring up that information again. So a nice, easy way for management and supervisors to see exactly what's been going on. What I will also show you is the real-time information, just quickly. Within real time, as you can see within here, I do have a telephone call there that maybe hasn't been finished off correctly. That was when one of the agents earlier on, Philip, was messing around with a call and answering that particular call. It may well be that he's still on that call because although he's not actually talking, and I know that because this is not highlighted, he is actually still finishing off that call. I don't want him to do that. I'm a supervisor. I can make him come out of that whether he wants to or not. And basically, he's now available to take another call. Equally so, I can see Sean's been inactive for quite some time. I could select him and I could put him into a different pause. Maybe I know that he's doing email, so I'll start counting him up on email. I also know Diana basically is at lunch at the moment, or whatever it may be. So it's instantly updated. Bearing in mind I'm David here, if I was to change David into a meeting, you'll find down at the bottom there, instantly it changes. It's all real time, as you'd expect it to be, but I know some of the competition aren't real time, but it's all real time information there. Other real time information we've got are things like with the wall boards. We could actually look at a wall board. That wall board obviously could be up on a big TV screen, or it can be on an individual screen. All of this is customizable. All of it can be put out any way you want, in boxes, in lines, in groups, etc., etc. So all of that can be changed. We've also got an SMS server. We've got a fax server there as well, but these are SMSs that have been sent that we can see. And indeed, we can also put out a number of announcements. So if there's an emergency closure, I can actually publish that. I can also do that from the bottom here as well. So I can actually say, I'm going to send a message to absolutely everybody to do with emergency closure today. And when that message is sent on everybody's screen, whether they like it or not, and it's going to be on today between now and later on, or whatever it may be. So if I wanted and I knew there would be a closure this afternoon, I can actually schedule that closure. So again, everything customizable, everything within the system changeable. From a reporting point of view, just to finish off, statistics, we've got a number of standard reports we think are probably pretty good. They're never going to suit everybody, which is why we are able to customize all of the reports as well. But for instance, on this particular thing, if we look at all of the calls this month, these are a count of activities. You can see there's various activities going on. Just hover over it and it'll tell us what it is. And then also we get a breakdown at the bottom there of everything as well. That's for all activities. I might want to do it by queues, types of call. Again, that's going to bring up whatever's going to be within a system for last month. Again, I can hover over things and I can see that person took an incoming messenger. This person was an incoming call. This person was a web chat, so on and so forth. And I can do that via queues, via users, by call work, etc., etc., etc. Now, it may well be that I've got a system that doesn't have all of these other things. So maybe it's just calls that I'm interested in. And again, if I look at calls by time, when did the calls come in? When did they happen? When was the unanswered calls? When did I meet service levels? And again, everything is broken down there. So we've got quite a lot of historical information built into the system. It's never going to be enough. So we've also got an ability to create our own reports. And within those own reports, I'm not sure there's going to be any information on this one. Looks like, yeah, there is some. That's good. So it's, again, something that I've created. This is the report I want to see with various information. And the good news about that is, once I've done it, I go back a page. I could actually say, well, I want that emailed to me every month at 7:30 on the first day of the month. And the next one's going to be sent out to me on the 1st of May. Um, Basically, that'll obviously update after the 1st of May to the 1st of June. I can have that go into a number of different email addresses if I so desire, just basically separated by a comma, as you'd expect it to be. So lots and lots of information in there. You can also create your own analytics. Your own analytics might be similar to a report, but it might be a particular field that you're creating. In this particular case, an activity account, probably for yesterday, probably for an individual, which is why there's not a lot of information there. So that's all the standard stuff within the system. But then you also get the ability to manage all of that as well. So if we've got users and lists of users, who has what access, who has what rights to go into the system. Again, a lot of our competitors might say you have an administrator, a manager, a supervisor, an agent, and a junior agent. You know, we don't have any such restrictions. You can have as many different accesses as you want. I have one customer who basically wanted a different access and a different right for every single person. So they ended up with 90 different ones. We did advise against it, but that's what they wanted, and customers always right. So basically, that's what they wanted. That's what we did with them. All of that information, again, can be tried, tested, and changed. If I just pick one in particular, you can see there's tick boxes down here. And if I go to advanced settings, there's even more tick boxes where we can actually say who has access to what, when. That's a course in itself and does take some time to go through. But equally, as you can see here, we can change these links. These shortcuts are the ones on the bottom left-hand side here. You can change these to go and do just about anything you wish as well. So all of that information is set up within the system. I won't go through all of the various different management parts, but you can set up queues, for instance, to go off to various different areas. We can set up routing to go into. We'll look at calls, for instance, IVRs or time conditions, opening times, and again, different languages if you so desire, different background music, different types of custom context, even where we can go into different areas and do PCI DSS queries, all sorts of different things on incoming calls. We can set up trunks to go off to different trunk groups so that we can go least cost routing. We can do text to speech. So basically, instead of an IVR that presses 1, press 2, press 3, you might say sales, support, and so on and so forth, and it will route you via that route as well. So all of that is basically changeable. Very quickly, so I know we're coming to the end of this particular one. Maybe I'll show you something like a web chat. So if I go into here, and I'll just show you very quickly from a customer's point of view or web chat. Basically, this is a quote unquote web page. Obviously, it's not real. Different things can be popped at different times. I'll put in here quickly my email address. Again, you don't have to. You can decide what fields you want in here and what fields are shown and what fields are compulsory and what fields are not. You could have a web chat coming in without any input whatsoever, but I'm going to start that anyway. In this particular case, a couple of nice, easy questions. What are your opening hours? Okay, but that was easy. Open from 8 till 7. What's the weather like? I know that's a strange one, but if I put in here, what's the weather like? And I type in Reading for argument's sake, it'll go off and basically find from a third party system what it believes the weather is like in Reading at the moment. So this just proves, if you like, that we can go off to a third party. I won't put in another location at the moment. But what I might say is I want to check a ticket status. We haven't looked at tickets yet, but basically tickets are history, if you like, on the system, and also email. And if I know what my ticket help desk number is, and I'm guessing there's something in 124, there is, it's bringing back that information that the last update on this was a demo. There was various information put in there, etc., and I can put another ticket. Obviously, we can control that as well with passwords and user IDs. So that's given me a little bit of information, but it's actually not exactly what I wanted. So what I might do is actually say, like, contact, support themselves. Now, you won't have heard that, but in my headset, I got a bing telling me that I'd been selected for a web chat. I could also be on a telephone call. I could be doing a text message, etc., etc. But I've answered that, and as you can see, I can see the history of what he said, that he asked for the weather, that basically he looked at ticket 124. I can see what he's been told. Probably, just while I read that, I might want to just say, thanks and welcome, and I don't know, what can we do for you today, for argument's sake. Number of different templates that I've set up in there, and obviously from the customer's point of view, we can see he's got those there. We've got the picture of David come up. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. What it might be is after a little while, I say, do you know what? Why don't we start a screen share? And you have to get the customer's permission within the screen share. Excuse me. And this isn't going to work too well because I'm already sharing cameras, etc. But it might well be that we want to do a video type call. We might want to share a screen so that we can see the different screens that we've got on there. We might want to turn it into a voice call as well as a video call. So, I could actually turn on the microphone. And there's a number of different things that the client can do if they want to. At the end of all of that, I'm basically going to say, you know what, I've had enough. I'm finished. Do you really want to end the chat? Yes, I do. At the bottom here, if I want to receive a transcript of what's above, it's already grabbed my email. That's why I put it in earlier on. And I could actually send that to myself, or I could say, you know what, close it down. I'm not interested. Or it may well be that I say, you know what, why don't you call me back? Here's my telephone number that I want you to call me on. We could automatically put in there the one that we've got on file. I'm going to be today sometime, so I know it's going to be after 11 o'clock now. Call me in one of these slots, or if it was tomorrow, call me in one of these slots, and basically it'll automatically arrange a callback, and an agent, when available in the right queue with the right permissions, will call this particular person back. I'm not going to bother setting that. I'm just going to close it down now and say, that's enough. When we look at what happens in the system itself, all of that information, again, is going to be stored within tickets. It's going to be stored within listings. And if I look at web chats, for instance, which we just did, we will find, I hope, that there is the top web chat that we just did. I'm going to link that into that ticket we looked at, which is maybe number 124, because I know that's the same customer. And it may well be that I put that into that particular one. In the background, David hasn't finished off yet. Again, similar to a call, he might want to put in there that this was a lead, and basically he's going to close it. He could have transferred it, etc., if he wanted to. But all of that information is available again. And within the tickets, if I look very quickly at number 124, which was the one that customer looked at, from within here, I can actually see a complete history of everything that customer's been up to on this particular ticket. I'll collapse it to make it a little easier. But as you can see, he was on a web chat. He's had text messages. He's had telephone calls. I can actually drop that down and have a look and see what that conversation was. It'll give me the full conversation that's in there. If there was an email sent to him, basically we can do that via a template. If I want to, I can send him a text message, and again, works exactly the same as you've seen already, where if I actually click on there and I say, I'm going to send a text message, I can have a template in there if I want. I can have as many of those as I wish. I could type in freeform what it is. I can have a chat, which will be a one-on-one with the customer via text, or I can send them a message, and if they reply, just like a telephone call, it would come into the system, and anyone who's in that right queue with the right permissions could answer that. Same goes with email. We have a look at the email side of things. Basically, all of the emails can have templates linked against them as well. Basically, you can have different email addresses that are sending it with different signatures, etc. And if I actually, particularly look at this one, it may well be that I've got a number of templates over on the right-hand side here that I want to actually send to. And if I pick, I don't know, travel status, just because I looked at that one earlier on, it's going to go away and pre-populate. This is a test ticket because that's what the subject was. Because we knew it was from Roy Holmes, it went into our CRM and it picked up our name and address. And basically, you saw earlier on where I said about visiting the Czech Republic or whatever it may be, did I need passports? All of that information can be grabbed as well. So I don't need to do anything other than send that. In fact, if I wanted to, I don't even have to have a look at that. We can automate that. We could even automate an email or a text message being sent at the end of every telephone conversation. We could automate that. If I update the CRM contact with some information, it might be a thanks ever so much type email. It might be a can you confirm the information type email. Again, you can choose what you actually decide to send. So all of that information, again, I'm not going to bother sending that particular email, is built within the system. Facebook works the same way as text works. Instagram works the same way. WhatsApp works the same way. We've tried to make it nice and easy for any agent to be able to use the system. So I think I've just about come to the end of my time.